Hi friends, welcome to the All-Canadian Reptile Girl. I'm Annaliese and I'm a bit of a scoundrel. Yeah, it's true. I've led you astray 5 times that you know of with false information. But today I confess my mistruths and tell you to your face, screen face. Tell you 5 times I lied to you on this channel. Let's do this before Jub Jub rips my hair out. Hi. So, yeah, I lied. Okay, I didn't lie. It's not like I intentionally bamboozled, hoodwinked, or hornswaggled you there. I haven't given you a terminological inexactitude. That's a real historical term, by the way, you should look it up. Hilarious. Or woven a metaphorical cloth over the truth like some sinister spider. Nope. Nothing in the malicious, deliberate sense. More like I was just mistaken, or maybe inexact at the time, or maybe there was some additional information needed. But this is YouTube, and here's 5 things I said that need a little context to be, fully accurate. Doesn't really pop on a thumbnail, you know? So, 5 lies it is, Mr. YouTube. I hope you're happy. In any case, let's start with my first reptile rut-row with a mistruth within a mistruth. It's a pretty popularly held belief that hognoses use their rear fangs to pop toads. This is not a hognose snake, this is a garter snake, Dwight, another rear-fanged venomous snake, although their venom is actually much more mild than a hognose's. Anyways, a common defense mechanism among many animals when threatened is to try to appear bigger, fluffing up fur or feathers, puffing up the chest, spreading out limbs really wide. Anything to make what's wanting to do them harm think twice about tackling something so big. Toads do this by gulping in air and puffing up real big, which not only is an intimidation tactic, but could also be a legitimate, substantial obstacle for an animal that swallows food whole, like a snake does. So it was thought that hognoses, who heavily feed on toads, use their rear fangs not only to deliver venom, but also to pop inflated toads to make them easier to swallow. Based on preliminary observations many decades ago, it seemed pretty reasonable, and it's been a pretty widespread fact among the reptile community. Except it's wrong. Studies done almost 50 years ago show very conclusively that the rear fangs on a hognose snake are not long enough to pop a toad. In fact, they would need to be 3 times longer than they actually are. I cover this all in my Myths Within Our Community video here, and have mentioned it in other videos too. And this is where I gasp. Lied. You see, in those videos, I said that it was impossible for hognoses to pop toads. And that's not actually true. If the hognose snake was eating the toad upside down, it is possible that their fangs could be just long enough to actually pop and deflate a toad. So here I am setting the record straight. It is not impossible for a hognose to pop toads. They just don't. James Kroll, who published many studies on hognose feeding, documented hundreds of instances of hognoses feeding on toads, and not a single one resulted in a hognose snake eating a toad upside down. Could it happen? Yeah, of course. But it's not how hognose snakes have ever been observed eating a toad in a research setting. Did the fangs evolve to pop one of hognose snake's favorite prey? No. Do they normally use their fangs this way? No. But is it impossible for them to do it? No. I was wrong in saying it is impossible in my video. In a very specific, unlikely circumstance, they can in fact pop toads. Feels good to get that off my chest. The next out of context whoops-a-doodle is that chameleons don't change color to blend in. I've done a couple videos on cool chameleon stuff, and in both of them, I reference that chameleons don't change color to blend into their surroundings. The primary purpose of color changing is communication, threat display, that's mostly a blah, to convey dominance, submission, anger, invitation for breeding, that kind of thing. They do not change color to match what's behind, beside, or around them. They can't mimic patterns or match any color they see. That all is true. But to say that they don't change color to blend in at all is not entirely accurate. It's not so much color and pattern that they change to blend in. It's more intensity to match light levels. If they are trying to hide and not communicate with flashy colors, they will tend to maintain a lighter tone in bright light. As the day darkens or they find themselves deeper in the forest with less light, they will darken their tone to match. Basically, they adjust their contrast, not their color. They do this in ways that we can see, but they also do this in ways that we can't, namely with UV. Chameleon bones reflect UV light, and through transparent segments of their skin, they can allow that glow to be visible. They use this much like they do... Do you need a blanket? Okay, hold on. We're gonna try a blanket. I know. Hold on. All better. All better. She enjoys being swaddled like a baby. I don't know. Pro tip for you if you have a grumpy tegu. They use this much like they do with the color changing abilities for communication with other chameleons. But they can also use it to match the UV being reflected by other things in their environment. To a predator or prey that can see UV, a modeled UV pattern amongst a forest of little UV reflections is going to blend in. A stark chameleon-shaped object reflecting no UV is potentially going to stand out. I hope that clears things up.
What's next?
The third murky mistruth is that snakes are not slimy. I have cited this in several videos, including one specifically about myths, but it's not true. They are slimy. I literally just did a whole video on this. So, you know, I actually don't need to spend a lot of time on this here. Every single live show I have done with my snakes has had at least one person tell me that they thought snakes were slimy. And every single time I told them that that was actually a myth and they are dry, and let them touch and hold a snake to see for themselves. And sadly, I had lied. Scientists have recently discovered that snakes, despite long being described by snake owners, experts, vets, biologists, me, as being dry, are actually the goopy slime monsters that ophidiophobes and grandmothers over the world have been telling us that they are all along. I know, they seem dry, but snakes are completely covered in a nanoscopic slippery slime layer made of lipids that act as a lubrication to reduce wear and tear. These lipids are even arranged differently on different parts of the body to provide more lubrication where it's most needed, like on the ventral scales. To us holding a snake, the amount of slime that comes off is nothing compared to the goop we secrete on our seemingly dry or sweaty, depending how nervous you are, hands that may or may not be covered in garter snake musk. And we perceive them as completely dry. But they are technically slimy. Does this mean that you should be agreeing with people who think snakes are slimy? No. Just tell them that they're dry and call it a day. Unless they're already super into snakes or really into science, they aren't going to care or think that it's as cool as you do. I might be speaking from experience here. Just go along with the, yep, they're dry narrative for practical purposes. It's true enough. But just know that I have said in the past very emphatically that snakes are dry, and that was technically inaccurate. I'm sorry. My fourth fable is that corn snakes, like Autumn here, among others, use Batesian mimicry to imitate venomous copperheads. I haven't done a video focusing on corn snakes for some time, but back when I did, and in some live shows, I have said that the orangey splotchy pattern that corn snakes have in the wild, being very similar to the orangey splotchy pattern of copperheads, who share a lot of the same range, is a great example of Batesian mimicry. And that was, you guessed it, a lie. Batesian mimicry is like nature's costume party. Or actually cosplay. It'd be cosplay.
If you say so.
Where harmless creatures dress up as dangerous doppelgangers to fool predators into thinking, whoa, I better steer clear of that guy. A great example would be the viceroy butterflies, who are, I guess, nutritious and delicious and would be a wonderful snack for predators that eat butterflies. But as delicious as they are often left alone because their appearance is very similar to the toxic and noxious monarch butterfly. Other examples would be any one of the dozens of species of flies and moths that mimic the pattern of wasps and bees, that kind of thing. But for this to work, A predator would have had to have tried taking a run at one of the real dangerous critters first to know that it's a bad idea, right? Well, not always. See, a lot of animals that get imitated use something called aposematic coloration. That is where, instead of the colors that blend in with the surroundings, they display very garish, bright, or highly contrasting colors that advertise that this animal should not be trifled with. Skunks, wasps, poison dart frogs, Pikachus. Those colors are a universal warning to back up. Copperhead's coloration is kind of bright and contrasting, I suppose, but it's not for aposematic reasons. Their orange, cream, brown tones are perfect for blending into the environment where they tend to live. Here, let me show you. How many copperheads do you see in this picture? See? That was pretty easy. How about this one? Right here. Okay, this one. Okay, this one's gonna be tough. Did you see it? I didn't. I assume that the copperhead took this picture. If you can find it, please let me know in the comments. My point is, copperheads are trying really hard not to be seen. So it's not really likely that the coloration is going to ward off a potential predator. So why have corn snakes stolen their look? Well, because it blends in. Corn snakes aren't imitating copperheads, they just happen to have evolved a similar coloration because it just works to help them keep hidden as it does the copperheads. This is an example of convergent evolution, where two unrelated or not closely related species evolve a similar trait for similar reasons. So I was wrong in saying that corn snake's coloration is a great example of Batesian mimicry, but it is still a great example of convergent evolution. And that's pretty cool. Hey, lies. Some pretty heavy stuff, eh? Lots of feelings about how I've deceived you, I'm sure. It's okay, perfectly natural to feel this way. But there is one thing I have never lied about, and that is how much I appreciate my patrons who help me make all these lies possible. Like these guys in my top tier here. My patrons get early access to my video without all those extra ads, but don't tell YouTube. Extra posts, behind the scenes stuff, extra bloopers if I'm not good at my job, all that. Head on over to patreon.com/allcanadianreptilegirl to lend your help. Thanks. And again, I'm sorry for the lies. Good chat, sport. You're handling this so well. And finally, number 5 on my list of loose-lipped lies is actually kind of similar to the last one. And that is that corn snakes, rat snakes, bull snakes, and others shake their tail to imitate rattlesnakes. Now, to be fair, this is one that I have corrected myself on before, but truth be told, that's what this video is about, I needed a 5th lie to round out this list, and this one is a fairly common misconception. I thought that maybe some of you might need a reminder on this too. If you aren't aware, rattlesnakes, who live exclusively in North America, have a rattle at the end of their tail, which they rattle to make a rattling noise as they rattle about their environment.
Rattle on.
Oddly enough, rattlesnakes are not named after this rattle. They are in fact named after Sir Thaddeus Edmund Rattle III, who famously perished after trying to kiss a rattlesnake he mistook for his golden retriever after a few too many wobbly pops. What?
Are you trying to create fodder for a part 2 here?
Shush. When a rattlesnake is threatened or wants to make its presence known, it will vigorously shake its tail, making a loud buzzing noise to warn off predators or other big creatures who are scared of rattles. So obviously, not human babies. This is a pretty loud indicator of where exactly a rattlesnake is. Good for the snake if it's a horse or a cow stomping about who will then avoid the snake, but often bad for a snake if it's a human that's gotten a little too close, as many of us have decided to use this to find and kill rattlesnakes, which is just a terrible idea. Not only should we not be killing rattlesnakes or anything or anyone just for existing, but the absolute best way to get bitten by a venomous snake is to try to kill or catch one. Just leave them alone. If you're nowhere near them, they can't be anywhere near you. This has led to an interesting behavior change in many rattlesnakes in various parts of their range. The rattlesnakes who rattle get killed by humans, so the ones that don't are the ones that pass on their genes. So we now have more and more rattlesnakes that have either learned to not rattle or have evolved to be less likely to rattle, meaning more surprise bites with no warning. Again, just leave things alone, folks, okay? Anyway, Bull snakes, rat snakes, corn snakes, king snakes, garter snakes, and many other North American snakes will also violently shake their tail when threatened. This is called tail buzzing, and it can be surprisingly loud. They can even pull off sounds not too dissimilar from a rattlesnake's rattle if they are buzzing their tail in leaf litter or debris or against the side of something. But are they imitating a rattlesnake? No. See, it's not just North American snakes that do this. Snakes all over the world in places where rattlesnakes aren't and have never been do this too. Heck, I even have baby Macklets pythons like this guy that do this, and these are native to Southeast Asia, pretty much as far away from North America as you can get. How can all of these species be imitating a snake they've never encountered or evolved along with? Well, they aren't. That's the point, if you didn't pick up on that. This tail buzzing behavior is just a common behavior that many snake species, and many lizard species too, all over the world share as a warning or defense mechanism. Rattlesnakes just evolved a significantly cooler way to do it. There are other cool ways snakes have evolved to wiggle their tails for non-defensive purposes too, but you know, I've got a whole video all about that because I haven't lied about that yet. So don't worry, cod alluring is planned. Stay tuned for that. So there you go. 5 heinous half-truths. I hope you guys can someday see your way to forgiving me for being a veritable vending machine of lies. I'll try to be better. Thanks to you all for watching, liking, subscribing, and commenting. And thanks again to my patrons. And until next time, remember to nurture all nature. Bye!